Richards, and welcome to NECC Today, a show produced by NECC students featuring some of the best things going on campus right now. Coming up on this episode, we'll get to find out why vampires are sexy and learn what happens when you mix bacon and board games. But first, we're going to join Winnie Chen, Gabriel Cordero, and Traeger Domoretsky as they discover all there is to know about NECC's service learning program.
Today we are at another NECC community college. We are going to interview some faculties from the service learning program. They will introduce their individual projects, both on and off campus, as well as the service learning family. Service learning is a program that connects the classroom with the real world by engaging students with community partners. Students will improve critical thinking, team building, and problem-solving skills through meaningful service. Paula Richards, the service learning coordinator of the program, introduced her experience.
I coordinate service learning at the college, and that involves many different projects and tasks. For example, we have the Service Learning Faculty Fellows Program, in which we help faculty implement service learning in their course design. Service learning is beneficial to both faculty and students. It's curricular as opposed to co-curricular. So volunteerism is very valuable, but service learning is a little bit different because service learning is tied to the objectives of a course. And sometimes faculty and students might get a little bit nervous thinking it's a lot of extra work, but it's actually not an add-on. It's integrated right into the course, so it could be an assignment or a project. In some of the readings I've reviewed, it compares service learning, for example, or contrasts it. So instead of students reading material, they're actually participating in doing the action.
The meaning of the project, the significance of the project is that both sides are benefiting from this. So for the students, they really get a chance to practice speaking English with a native speaker. And some students don't really have that opportunity normally outside of school. They might speak their native language at home or at their job, so this is a really good opportunity to practice in a natural setting.
These students, what we did was we partnered 1 year with Mary Immaculate Healthcare Center in Lawrence, and in past semesters, including this semester, we are partnering with Haverhill Crossings in Haverhill, and the students designed questions to ask seniors about the different seasons of their lives. For example, summer, spring, fall, and winter. So that would be childhood, adolescence, adulthood, and the golden years. Their lives now as senior citizens. So the students write letters of introduction to the seniors. The faculty member plans ahead of time, different times that the students can go to interview the seniors. The students go in partners so that they're not too, nervous. It can be could be somewhat anxiety-provoking for a non-native English speaker to go out into the community and interview people. And so the students interview the seniors about their lives. They go back for follow-up interviews, and then at the end they actually give them gifts with the stories of the seniors' lives, framed in a PowerPoint slide that's framed.
So they really improve their language skills. Also, many of the students are really learning a lot about elder care in the United States. So we spend time in class discussing that. What are the options? Haverhill Crossings is a very nice facility. It's not cheap. So we talk about things like how do people afford to go to a place like this? How does it compare to different cultures where people might stay with their families? And what is the situation in the country? Not everyone goes to a place like this when they retire. What are some other situations that elderly people find themselves in? And then on the other side of things, for the senior partners, they're benefiting because they're getting a chance to connect with college students, to have the activity of being interviewed. And last semester when I did this project, the seniors were really excited and grateful for the gifts that we gave them at the end. We framed the biographies with the pictures, and we were told that many of their family members, many of the staff at Haverhill Crossings really enjoyed reading those. They put them up in their rooms on display.
Other faculties involved in the program also think highly of their experience of service learning.
My class, which is Introduction to the Creative Experience, it's a course required of all people that are in the Human Services program, that will be social workers or drug and alcohol counselors. And I teach the course as an introduction to art therapy. It gives them an overview of how the arts can be used therapeutically. The service learning component, I'm partnered with the Haverhill Boys and Girls Club. And my students spend at least 10 hours over the course of the semester there, working on various projects, seeing how the things that we've been studying in class relate to what's going on at the Boys and Girls Clubs, working with the kids that are there.
So, I mean, it wasn't something like, let's set something up and teach these kids something. It was just natural. It just happened.
Like some of the kids in the other rooms were just kind of playing alone, so it was kind of cool to like play with these kids and give them the attention.
Even though the service learning program is a great opportunity for students and faculties to improve and help Haverhill residents, the community is also facing challenges of not receiving sufficient awareness on campus.
So time is limited to oversee all our projects. We also, try to write grants. So we got an AACU grant last semester that I wrote with, one of the committee meetings to help support the Faculty Fellows program. But we really would appreciate more institutional support towards this goal, because service learning is connected to all the strategic goals at the college, as well as our Achieving the Dream initiatives.
Well, I know that in general, service learning means that you're learning something about the course that you're taking by actually doing it, as opposed to just sitting in a classroom listening to lectures and PowerPoint, looking at PowerPoints all day.
I have not heard about it before this class.
I think it's something to do with volunteering or something that other services would be.
Although the faculties of the service learning are doing their best to grow this program, ensure there are more and more faculties and students are joining this program, their efforts have been seen. Lots of students who benefited from this program strongly recommended it and are willing to promote it to the diverse Northern NECC community.
Yes, I would definitely recommend this kind of project to other classes. At the beginning, it felt like it might be a lot of work to change my course to implement something like this, and it did take some extra organization, connecting with the partner, organizing carpooling, things like that. But overall, the benefits have really outweighed any extra work I put in. It's made my curriculum come to life a little more, made the learning experience more meaningful for my students.
I really, really recommend it. It's actually a really good program, so for anybody out there, they should definitely try the service learning program.
Now I have better skills and I pay more attention.
I would definitely recommend this to all faculty to incorporate this into their classes, if possible, and certainly to get students involved.
So I strongly encourage faculty and students to seek out service learning opportunities on the campus. For next our next round of registration, which is going to begin in April, we actually will be having service learning pop-ups on the course, on the online course schedule, so that students will be able to see which course sections faculty will be offering these service learning opportunities. And so that's one way that we're going to get the news out. Students who are drawn to opportunities to engage in service opportunities will be drawn to those course sections.
We have been studying whole day, whole semester, trying to reach out our dreams and create value for Hayville and the school. Service learning is a great program that everyone could participate and building up skills for the future to make a difference. This is Greene reporting from HC Media. Thanks for watching.
Service learning, another NECC initiative benefiting students and teachers alike. For more information, contact Paula Richards at prichards@necc.mass.edu. I bet you've been wondering this whole time, why are vampires sexy? Faith Gregory, Thomas Shamma, and Sarah Argentbright went to interview NECC English professor and literary vampire extraordinaire Tom Greene to get his take on those oh-so-desirable bloodsuckers.
Hi, my name is Faith Gregory, and we're here interviewing Professor Tom Greene about the NECC Speakers Bureau, which is a panel of teachers who are available to give talks on their areas of expertise, mostly in venues around the Merrimack Valley like public schools and libraries.
I started at Northern Essex Community College in 2008, around February. Speakers Bureau for about 5 years.
So do you do any other talks besides Why Are Vampires Sexy?
I do a talk called Tricksters in the Marketing of Breakfast Cereal, which is about the way that breakfast cereal is marketed using the mythology of trickster folklore. That was actually much less popular. I've only given that one maybe half a dozen times. The vampire talk, it was extremely popular back in the era of Twilight, and I gave about 12 talks during that 1 year. And since then, it's been pretty steadily. In October, a couple of talks.
We interviewed Professor Greene about his talk at the Scarlet Letter Press, an independent publisher at Pickering Wharf in historical Salem, Massachusetts, Greene's hometown.
The vampire talk starts with the question of what happened between the time when Bram Stoker first conceived the idea of the modern vampire back in the 1890s and when Robert Pattinson played Edward Cullen in Twilight. That Bram Stoker's vampire is very menacing and is sort of a monster that preys on society, as opposed to Edward Cullen, the Twilight character, who is sort of many teenage girls' ideal of what is most sexy in the world. And so some change happened during those years, and it's an examination of the way the vampires were depicted and the way that those changes shifted over time to create a vampire who was less monstrous and frightening and menacing, and more sympathetic and heroic, and then eventually able to be the love object of a love story coming into the 21st century. The first sort of phase of vampires is the monster vampires, and that's Bram Stoker's Dracula, and then moving on up into the Bela Lugosi and Christopher Lee era. And all of those monsters are about fear of the unknown. All those vampire stories are about fear of invasion by foreigners. They're about threats to women. They're about this menacing spirit that comes from somewhere. And the sort of moral structure of those stories is that the monster creates a disturbance in society and that has to be destroyed, and that solves the problem. Beginning with Frank Langella's Dracula in the 1970s, and this is an observation that was first made by a critic named Nina Arbach, that he is the first sort of sympathetic vampire. He is the most attractive man in the movie, both in physical terms and in terms of his personality and his interaction with the heroine, Mina. So Mina is attracted to him, which represents a kind of shift in the way that those vampire stories are presented. And instead of trying to capture her and prey on her, he invites her over to his crypt for a candlelight dinner. And it's the first sort of movie where she is almost sort of asking to be turned into a vampire, and he is refusing at first, but eventually being more sympathetic to that. And then the trend went on through the whole Anne Rice era, with the vampires becoming more the object of eroticism or affection. And then finally arrived in Stephenie Meyer. I think it's really interesting the way that vampires correspond with the modern era, with the increasing But really, vampires started right at the end of the Victorian era, at least the modern version of vampire. Vampire legends have been around for hundreds of years, but the form that they took beginning with Bram Stoker is the time when the vampires first started to represent, I think, are the fears of more modern people. For example, Dracula is a foreigner. That's something that the Victorians were really terrified of, and he's an aristocrat because he arose as a character during an era when the professional classes were sort of rising and taking over society from the aristocracy that had ruled before. And he threatens women, which they had a lot of anxiety about, and his sexuality is ambiguous, which they also had a lot of anxiety about in the Victorian times. And it's the little things, like, for example, in the original novel, Dracula opens locks. He has the power to unlock any lock. And I think that reflects really people's fear about urbanization, the way that living among a lot of strangers in a city, that people needed to, for the first time, lock up their houses. Dracula just so perfectly captured all of those Victorian anxieties. I think that accounts for some of its popularity. And then the persistence of the myth, I think, lies in the way that once that sort of mythology is set down of the vampire and his general rules, which change a little bit, but some of the things stay the same. The real power of this myth is that it's able to change in its details just enough to keep up with people's anxieties in such a way that it reflects the concerns of whatever culture produces the mythology. So, for example, Anne Rice, critics have for a long time seen that her vampires hanging out in New Orleans in the streets at night, biting each other and spreading this sort of vampire disorder among their own community is about homosexual anxiety. So the fact that a Victorian myth can transform to the extent where it reflects fears of people in the 1980s is a big shift. Well, vampires have done a really good job, I think, of keeping up. We have vampires like the True Blood series that are about immigration fears and fears of those strange people who we find are living in our society and have their own rules and their own food. And we have vampires like in the Blade movies, which are about race relations and or Underworld also, about what happens when people interbreed or cross races or try to break out of their racially designated roles. And we have corporate vampires, those are also in Blade. Where the vampires actually form a kind of evil corporation that the metaphoric blood drinking just sort of fits right in there.
So, why are vampires sexy?
Well, my theory is that it's because we kind of envy them. They're independent predators, and I think that people have a long history of admiring predators because of their self-sufficiency and the way that they can move through the world and take what they want without having to worry about how other people feel about it. You know, the story of attraction to vampires in the supernatural romance stories, where it's the girl and the vampire, is mostly about wanting to become a vampire, wanting to become like a vampire, and so it's not so much wanting to be the girlfriend of a vampire, as it is wanting to have the kind of freedom and power and personal authority and independence that a vampire has. So, for example, even though some people see Twilight or some of these supernatural romances as being problematic because of the way that these girls could be said to be in abusive relationships with aloof men who don't treat them well. There's also a sense in which it's more about the girl wanting to be like him rather than wanting to be with him. And so in that sense it could be even empowering because it encourages girls to, young women, to take on these more authoritative roles.
So, thank you for taking the time to talk with us. Now we know why vampires are sexy.
Looks like those toothy devils are here to stay. Okay, so what do Monopoly and fatty pork products have in common? If you're into playing board games, scarfing down bacon, and go to school at NECC, you probably already know. For those of you who are out of the loop, Roberta Bowman, Adam Frost, and Sarah Brocher are here to fill you in on the NECC Bacon Board Gamers Club.
Today the topic is the Bacon Board Gamers. The question is, what are the Bacon Board Gamers? And what does bacon have to do with anything? Could it be that it's the most popular meat in the USA? Well, we're about to find out.
It's a mixture of card games and board games in general. We play anything, but we like playing Coup. As for card games, we play Cards Against Humanity a lot, Super Fight. As for board games, we like playing Shadowhunters and like lesser known games board games. We also we play a lot of Risk too.
There's about 10 regular members that show up, and every now and then we have a few of our friends come in and play games with us as well.
It's named Bacon Board Gamers because when they were going to make the name for the club, they had no idea what it was going to be. So they were like all sitting around like, oh, what do we like? Bacon. And we're playing board games. That's how they literally came up with the name.
So to recruit members, we just, if we see that someone has an interest in board games or games in general, we just say, hey, we have this club on Fridays. We play board games, we play card games, video games if you want. If you would just want to show up, chill out, we have bacon pizza. So yeah, you just come. We meet on 6:30s on every first and third Friday of each month, and I'm pretty sure you will enjoy it.
It can go on for as long as we want. It starts at around 6:30 and it can go on till 9, 10. They said that the latest that stayed there was since 1 a.m.
Okay, so there you have it. Those are the Bacon Board Gamers, and that's what they do for fun when they meet at Northern Essex Community College. I hope we've shed some light on it, and if you are interested in getting involved, you can email Professor Mike Cross at Northern Essex Community College, or you can go to the NECC website and look up student activities, and under special interest groups, you will find the Bacon Board Gamers. Thank you, and have a great day.
If you want to join the gamers, contact Michael Cross at mcross@necc.mass.edu. So, that's what's going on at NECC this month. Watch for our next episode in May. I'm Shayna Richards, and we'll see you on campus.